Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, and this is a Ways and Means Committee bill hearing. We are going to start today with House Bill 569. Delegate Ahrens.
Maybe not, huh? I didn't have lunch. Well, Madam Chairwoman, thank you. It's a pleasure being in the committee. It's the first time here for me. I have a bill today, HB 569, and for the record, my name is Delegate Steve Ahrens. I'm here to present HB 569. It's a local bill, Queen Anne's County bill. It's kind of an interesting bill because it's something to change a little bit about what we've been doing, but the bill basically is the Queen Anne's County's bill to provide the flexibility on how we use revenues from our impact fees. As you know, they're collected, but they're always here to actually fund the schools, and we're looking for a little bit of a difference here. We actually want to use those fees to actually replace some components and replace the school. The bill was requested by our county commissioners. It's supported by the Board of Education as well as the county delegation. Currently, as I said, they're a one-time fee when we build a new home, and I think if you look at the situation in Queen Anne's County, we're pretty maxed out on growth as far as what we can and can't build in Queen Anne's County. We have limited infrastructure over there. So they asked us to take a look at this. They said the school would like to replace is a middle school, or I'm sorry, a middle school in Queen Anne's County that was built in the 70s. And I think you all understand that prior to 2000, we really didn't collect impact fees, and they weren't really utilized just for our schools and how they're handled today. The bill essentially will allow us to use those impact fees to replace this school and actually do modifications to our current system. County Commissioner Jim Moran actually wrote some information on the bill, and he says, you know, one of the things we're looking to do with this school is you look at the situation as far as how the schools are today and the conditions. He said this bill will help improve the structures and educational space for the students. It will improve security and safety through modernization, and it meets the current size standards established by the state requirements. And it will enhance our ability to use new technologies for education and implement safety and security features that we currently see in our schools. And also we'll be focusing on the energy efficiencies for the school. It's a little bit out of the box for us. It's a local bill. We're not really growing much in Queen Anne's County as far as our student rate, so it kind of makes sense for us. And I would ask for a favorable response on the bill. Any questions?
Okay, seeing no questions, thank you very much.
Was the presentation that good?
It was very thorough, clearly.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
thank
you, and that concludes the hearing on House Bill 569. Next up is House Bill 590, and I'm going to hand the gavel over to Delegate Ebersol. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. For the record, I'm Delegate Jessica Feldmark here on behalf of the Howard County delegation to present House Bill 590. House Bill 590 deals with the distribution of Howard County's transfer tax. A quarter of our transfer tax revenue goes to agricultural land preservation currently, and this bill would simply broaden that from agricultural land preservation to agricultural preservation and innovation. So it changes the name of the fund and specifies the use of the fund would be to support the agricultural land preservation program and other program services or initiatives to enhance the commercial viability or environmental sustainability of agriculture in the county. And This is really focused on the fact that Howard County has a very successful agricultural land preservation program, but we recognize that we need to not just preserve the land, but preserve agriculture as an industry and help support our farmers in diversifying their operations and remaining commercially viable and making sure that they're able to do so in an environmentally sustainable way. So this did pass our Howard County delegation unanimously, and I respectfully ask for a favorable report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, that concludes testimony on House Bill 590. Thank you. We'll now move to House Bill 606, Delegate Nkongolo et al.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Just one quick observation. It looks like we got the memo to wear green today, several of us. Twinning in here. Okay, for the record, I'm Delegate Latoya Nkongolo representing District 31, and House Bill 606 is a local bill, and it was cross-filed with Senator Simon Ayer, Senate Bill 109, and it passed the Senate unanimously on January 29th. So this bill updates the tax deferment program. Under the current law, homeowners in Anne Arundel may be eligible for a deferral if they are at least 62 years of age, are permanently and totally disabled, and qualify for benefits under the Federal Act for members of the United States Armed Forces. So basically, this bill just updates the language to ensure that all uniformed service members, including certain reserve components, as well as the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the Public Health Service are included. So this bill updates the language to be consistent for Anne Arundel County. And simply as a follow-up from last year's modernization of Maryland's Military Law Act. So this is just a technical update. It does not expand benefits beyond what is already intended, and it simply ensures consistency and fairness for residents who have served. So I appreciate your time and respectfully request a favorable consideration for House Bill 606, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions on this bill? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 606. And next up, we have House Bill 579, Delegate Long.
Good afternoon, esteemed members of this great committee. Madam Chair. For the record, Delegate Bob Long. I'm down here today to try to some property tax exemptions for our seniors. This will be a Baltimore County delegation bill, and so far, from what I understand, there's not really been, I think the subcommittee might have met on it. Anyway, this will be subject to approval from the Baltimore County delegation. This would actually give a tax credit for our seniors. It would freeze their property taxes as they are now, the assessed value, and also give them a $50,000 dwelling assessment credit on their property. We have seniors in my district that are struggling just to make ends meet, especially with gas and electric and everything else going up and up and up and up. And we want to make sure our seniors can retire and retire and live within their means. And unfortunately, they're tightening their belts up, but everybody else is spending their money, and that's what this bill is about. To give them some tax relief on that bill. I would ask for a favorable vote, and I think we're going to hear this bill in delegation on Friday. We'll take a vote then.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Delegate Long? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on House Bill 579, but Delegate Long, you're sticking with us for House Bill 602 up next.
Okay, House Bill 602 would authorize Baltimore County to give a tax credit for a tax credit towards the transfer tax. So in other words, when you buy a house, instead of paying Baltimore County transfer tax, you would be exempt. And what this is, I'm hoping this would do, would help get the market to get people back into first-time home buyers, open up the market a little bit. Anything we can do to help our first-time home buyers is a good thing. I've been in this business for over 40 years, and I haven't seen the market the way it is right now. The average age of a first-time home buyer now is 45 years old. So that's just saying. And a lot of this has to do with property taxes, insurance, and just the cost of living. And we need to help our first-time home buyers as much as we possibly can. It builds generational wealth. We hear this down here all the time about building generational wealth. And it gives them a tax break. If you buy a house, you can write a lot of stuff on your taxes. You can't go wrong buying a house. And this is, it's a good bill. And again, Baltimore County delegation will be voting on this Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We have a question from Delegate Ebersol.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thanks. Just to clear the record, you used the term that it authorizes the county, but the fiscal note says it's a mandate on local
Yeah,
government.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, that's it. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
I mean, I'd be willing to change it to author. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're clear on the record on that.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, that concludes the bill hearing for House Bill 602 and Delegate Long. Next up, we have House Bill 603.
Hold on for a second. What this would basically do is the homestead property tax credit would freeze it at 100%. So in other words, wherever the assessed value is now, it would stay that way. And I know there's a lot of heartburn about raising property taxes in Baltimore County. The county actually has the authorization to change the constant yield rate. Constant yield rate can be set by their budget. So they could either raise it or they could lower it. In the last 40 years, 30 years, the county's always bragging they have never raised the constant yield rate. Well, they hadn't had to because the assessed values keep going up. Again, I just want to see our market, people getting back in the market, buying houses. We have to live within a budget, and I think we should require our government, our local governments, to do the same thing. I mean, they get basically a pay increase every year. Every time assessment goes up, they get more money to spend. And this is what this bill is about. It would freeze it, and it is a mandate. And the delegation will be meeting on this and voting on it for Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions on House Bill 603? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Delegate Long.
Thank you.
That concludes the hearing on House Bill 603. I do not see the other Delegate Long in the room, so we will move ahead to House Bill 585. Delegate Chang.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Mark Chang, member of Maryland House Delegates, District 32. Thank you for the opportunity to present House Bill 585, Transportation Rental Cars Excise Tax Exemption. House Bill 585 is an opportunity for the committee to fully consider the impact on the components of last year's budget package. As part of our efforts to raise new revenues for the state's Transportation Trust Fund, in order to continue our investment in roads, bridges, and transit, the governor and this House and Senate explored many options, including many taxes and fees. One of the options was to repeal the rental car exemption from the motor vehicle excise tax. In fact, this committee heard HB 898, which repealed the rental car exemption and instead levied a new 3.5% vehicle excise tax on vehicles added to rental car inventory. This new tax is in addition to the existing 11.5% sales tax rate on vehicle rentals. Even though the committee did not act on House Bill 898, the measure was added to the House budget plan, and it was eventually part of the final package adopted by the House and Senate Budget Conference Committee during the last legislative session. Since last year, the rental car industry has raised several concerns with the new tax. First, Maryland is the only state in the nation to tax rental car inventory. Two, this tax on rental car inventory in Maryland is the only inventory tax on business in this state. As a general rule, inventory taxes are disfavored as they impede business investment. That's why most states rely on taxes on the end user, such as our standard 6% sales tax. Number three, while many believe that rental car taxes are a tax on tourists, particularly at BWI Airport, which is in the district that I represent, the reality is that 3/4 of the rental car taxes are paid by Marylanders renting vehicles from locations other than BWI, and those are locations that are located in our communities and neighborhoods. Number four, Maryland has addressed the inventory tax policy question before. In fact, the General Assembly repealed its inventory tax on rental cars in the 1990s after significant study and debate. Every other state that had a similar tax in place repealed theirs too. Number five, and finally, the rental car industry worked with the budget committees last year and offered $7 million in new revenue through increases in title and registration fees. And we adopted those increases as well. In closing, we should also take into account that revenue estimates for this new tax are uncertain. The fiscal note for HB 898 from last year suggested that the 3.5% tax would generate close to $50 million each year. However, current DLS estimates suggest that it may only be $30 million annually. Rental car companies may change their fleet purchasing strategies, and our revenues could decline further. For the above reasons, I ask the committee to carefully review the pros and cons of this new tax and urge a favorable vote on House Bill 585. Thank you very much. And joining me this afternoon, I have a panel with me.
Don, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Good afternoon, Vice Chair Feldmark, members of the committee. My name is Don LaFave. I'm here representing the American Car Rental Association to express our strong support for HB 55. While I've submitted detailed written remarks for the record, I'd like to highlight 4 key reasons why this repeal is essential for Maryland. First, it is a tax on resident. Data shows that nearly 79% of car rental sales is collected at local neighborhood offices rather than at BWI. Contrary to what most people think, this is a tax on Marylanders, not a tourist tax. It is a cost primarily carried by Maryland residents who need rentals for daily life, insurance replacement, sporting events, or other travel needs. Maryland's a national outlier. Maryland's currently the only state in the country that imposes an excise tax on the acquisition of rental vehicle inventory. This creates a triple tax scenario where the same car is taxed at the point of purchase, its rental, and at sale. It's also poor economic policy. Taxing business inventory is fundamentally flawed because it discourages capital investment and erodes state competitiveness. Unlike other retailers who don't pay tax on the inventory they buy to sell, rental companies are being forced to pay for their tools of the trade. It's also an unfair tax burden. Maryland renters already pay 11.5 sales and use tax. Adding this 3.5 inventory tax on top of the high transaction rate makes it significantly more expensive for companies to provide affordable transportation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is John DeRose, and I represent Enterprise Mobility. We own and operate Enterprise, National, and Alamo Rent-A-Car, as well as other lines of transportation. Today, we have 122 locations across the state, including car rental branches, truck rental facilities, car sale dealerships, and administrative offices. We employ about 2,000 employees across the state. I'm also here in strong support of HB 585. Enterprise Mobility as a company is fully aligned with the economic vision and the goal to grow the economy and create jobs in Maryland. The new 3.5% tax on our inventory is unprecedented, as you've heard. We're the only state in the country to place this additional burden on the rental car industry. Maryland, sales tax generally applies to retail consumption of goods and services by the end consumer. Maryland law does not apply sales tax to tangible property that is purchased exclusively for rental, lease, or resale, except in this case for the car rental industry. Today, all other states exclude or exempt purchases made for resale or taxable rent. Maryland law does, however, apply the 11.5% sales tax on rental transactions, as you've heard, and a 6.5% tax on the resale of the vehicles when the rental car company turns their fleet. This new tax on our inventory is creating an environment of competitive harm within the car rental industry in Maryland. Tax policy should not result in the picking of winners and losers. It should remain neutral. This tax is not neutral. It targets a single industry, the car rental industry. It increases business inventory costs, again, only for the car rental companies in Maryland. The result is a competitive disadvantage for the companies who choose to do business in the state. Conversely, Maryland's neighbors in Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, West Virginia, and the District of Columbia do not burden the car rental companies by taxing the business inventory.
You can just wrap up your final thought.
We believe this is bad tax policy for the state, the people of Maryland, and certainly for the car rental companies operating across the state. For these reasons, we respectfully ask for a favorable report on HB 585. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Doug Alsbrooks. I'm the current Vice President and General Manager for Enterprise Mobility, operating the Baltimore, Maryland group that oversees Enterprise, National, and Alamo. Our operating group is operated out of Lithicum, Maryland. Today, I'd like to discuss the impact of the 3.5% new excise tax that has had on doing business at the BWI airport, and then affordability for our consumers and the competitive disadvantage for the industry. BWI in 2025 has saw deplanements rise back to pre-COVID levels and match 2019 levels. However, the rental-car industry is seeing 30% decrease in rental days and transactions over the same time period due to the increase in tax and fees associated with renting cars and doing business at BWI. An example, currently with a basic economy car at $40 a day, a consumer, when all taxes and fees, roughly comes to $59 that they are charged. Obviously, as you get into bigger and nicer vehicles, the costs continue to rise. That makes renting cars at BWI the most expensive airport to do business in the region. Not only has this created an affordability concern for customers flying into BWI, the concerns in the rent-a-car industry continue to have a competitive disadvantage. Consumers have options to use peer-to-peer, TNCs, and other mobility options that once again create a competitive disadvantage for the rent-a-car industry. With the decrease in rental-car days and transactions, this could ultimately impact our ability to invest in local purchasing a fleet, reduce employment opportunities, and create higher prices for our consumers. For those reasons, we respectfully ask for a favorable report on the HB 585 and repeal the 3.5% excise tax.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Mike Johansson on behalf of Enterprise Mobility. So this topic has a 45-year history in the Ways and Means Committee and in the General Assembly. In 1982, and I wasn't here then, the General Assembly recognized that a 5% sales tax and a 5% titling tax was a disadvantage to doing business in the state. So they created an 8% sales tax and gave a credit for all the titling taxes you paid. That changed in 1992 in something called a BRFA of 1992, where all of a sudden the General Assembly decided we're getting rid of the credits. Well, they left the sales tax at 8%, got rid of the credits, which mean you paid 8% sales tax and now 5% titling tax. In 1993 through 1995, after various studies, I went to the library and DLS and got this study. Some young staffer named Michael Sanderson was the author of it. Ways and Means Committee had a big hand in this. And they created the program we had until last year, which is an 11.5% sales tax on every rental and an exemption from the titling tax. And the reasons are the same reasons were before you today. Maryland, as a general rule, doesn't tax any seller's inventory. If you buy tools from Black & Decker and Home Depot selling them, they don't pay a sales tax on what they buy from Black & Decker. It's the customer that pays. So the model before last year was the 11.5% sales tax model and a zero titling tax. Last year, in an effort to raise revenue, the rental car industry knew that it had to come to the table. So we did. In addition, in 2024, when the registration fees were increased on the trauma fund side, that increased by $23 a year. All the registration fees that the rental car industry paid, we didn't object to that. Last year, we actually sat down at the table, Ways and Means Committee, Environment and Transportation, as well as Appropriations and the Senate members, and suggested an increase in the registration fees. Just for example, of the 24,000 vehicles that Enterprise itself holds, the net impact cost of the registration fees and trauma fees is $3 million a year. So we ask for your serious consideration of this. We understand there's still concerns about revenue, but are happy to talk to you about it.
Okay, thank you. Committee, any questions for Delegate Chang or the sponsor panel? Okay. Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. We have a few more witnesses. Rob Garagiola, Rob Smith, and Michael DeLorenzo. Okay. Whoever wants to begin, 2 minutes, please.
Okay, that's me. I'm Mike DeLorenzo. Good afternoon, delegates. I'm president of the NextCar car rental organization, which is a Maryland-based company headquartered in Laurel, Maryland. And I'm here today to represent the 110 Maryland residents that are employed at our 17 Maryland locations across Baltimore City and the counties of Anne Arundel, Baltimore, Frederick, Montgomery, and Prince George's. During last year's session, the auto rental industry was surprised by a dramatic and unprecedented $47 million increase in taxation adopted during the budget negotiations between the House and the Senate. The increase didn't come through the normal process. As you know, it was all done in a back room called Conference Committee. We didn't get to participate in that decision. Last year, the committee was told that the auto rental industry received an unfair and lucrative exemption from the excise tax in 1993 due to legislative oversight. What was not mentioned that in 1993 was the industry agreed to an entirely different taxation structure to keep Maryland-based auto rental businesses competitive. That's me. I was here. I was in those meetings in 1993. I started renting cars in 1969, so I've been here since the beginning of time. That's a joke. Anyway, specifically, the industry agreed to pay 11.5% of gross receipts. Now I'd like to explain to you what the distinction is between excise tax and gross receipts tax. So I'm going to use a personal story about my son. Last year, my son bought a $30,000 car, and he traded in his $8,000 Toyota on it, and he paid excise tax on $22,000, which came to $1,430 in total taxation. My son is not a car guy like me. He keeps his cars about 10 years, so he's paying $143 a year average for 10 years. By comparison, prior to the excise tax on rental cars, NextCar would purchase a Toyota Camry and pay no excise tax, but would pay 11.5% car rental tax on the $14,400 a year in rental revenue, which generated $1,656 per year in taxation for the state. So over the same 10-year period, one of my rental cars pays $16,560 to the state in taxation, and my son pays $1,430.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for having me. My name is Rob Smith. I'm the president of JGF Management. We have several different rental car companies, but we're based right here in Maryland. If you've ever rented a car at BWI Airport, you've probably noticed that most of those vehicles have out-of-state license plates. That's not accidental. It's the result of proportional registration rules that give national rental car companies a structural tax advantage over Maryland-based businesses. Under those rules, multi-state operators register vehicles based on where revenue is earned, not where the cars are actually used. So even if thousands of vehicles operate daily on Maryland roads, only a small percentage may be registered here. Maryland-based rental car companies don't have that option. Every vehicle must be titled in Maryland, and the excise tax must be paid in cash up front. Financing doesn't cover it. That creates a real and measurable cost gap. For example, a Toyota Camry registered in Virginia costs about $1,050 less than the same vehicle registered in Maryland. To recover the difference, a Maryland operator would need to charge about $5 more per rental day and still face a higher resale cost than most competitors operating across the border. This helps explain why roughly 90% of rental vehicles at BWI carry out-of-state tags, and why most states long ago moved away from excise taxes on rental cars in favor of transaction-based sales taxes. That approach generates more revenue over time and keeps in-state businesses competitive. Maryland rental car companies already pay an 11.5% sales tax on every rental, one of the highest rates in the nation. At my company alone, we employ more than 110 Maryland residents in stable, well-paying jobs. Senate, this bill restores fairness, strengthens Maryland business, and protects the local employment without reducing overall tax revenue. Thank you for your consideration.
All right. Madam Chair and Vice Chair, Rob Gargill with Compass Advocacy, here on behalf of Enterprise Rent-A-Car and Fitz Auto and Nextcar, which is an affiliate. I want to thank Delegate Chang for sponsoring this. You know, as a member of the Appropriations Committee, I'm sure it's not an easy thing to come here saying we need to reduce revenue, but it's a very important thing, and I'm going to hit 5 points touching on why. Last year, you may recall the governor put forward a proposal for $420 million for the Transportation Trust Fund. Last year, the General Assembly actually overshot that amount by overshot it $450 million by $30 million. I want to ask you to remember that number, $30 million. Number two, the amount in the fiscal note last year for this vehicle excise, rental car excise tax was actually $46 million. If you look at the fiscal note, it's $30 million. I would argue that it's actually going to be less over time. But note, $30 million is what we're talking about here. And last year, it was an overshot of the governor's proposal by $30 million. The third point I want to make and emphasize is that no other state has this vehicle excise tax. DC doesn't, none of our neighboring states do. In fact, no state in the union has this tax. We don't tax inputs, which was mentioned earlier. Number four, Maryland has among the highest sales and use rental car taxes in the country. We pay 11.5%. So that, you know, add on the excise tax, which was just done 11.5%. By comparison, DC is less, Virginia is less, Pennsylvania is less, West Virginia is less, Delaware is less. I think every state in the nation is less on the rental car sales tax that we pay in Maryland, except for Hawaii. And I think it raised about, that was $105 million, if I'm not mistaken, in the last year, and only 45% of that 11.5% goes to the Transportation Trust Fund. Now, the last point I'll make, Madam Vice Chair and Madam Chair, and then I'll wrap, is it is a misnomer that this is taxing like out-of-state travelers. Nextcar has 17 locations, retail locations in the state. Enterprise has 122. You heard 100 plus employees, over 2,000 employees in the state. This is going to have additional repercussions and revenue repercussions on the operating and on the Transportation Trust Fund if we don't pass this legislation. So with that, thank you, Madam Vice Chair and Madam Chair.
Any questions for this panel? Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 585. And next up, House Bill 556, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair. We will now start with House Bill 556, Delegate Long, Property Tax Credit Utility Service Expenses for Dwellings, the Maryland Family Utility Tax Relief Act. You do have one witness signed up. All right, and you can start when you're ready.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. For the record, I am Delegate Jeffrey E. Long Jr. of District 27B, and I am proud to present to you House Bill 556, which I have dubbed the Maryland Family Utility Tax Relief Act. One thing we can all agree on is that whether we are from the Eastern Shore to Southern Maryland, to Central Maryland, to Baltimore, wherever, that many Maryland families are feeling the burden of utility bills, whether it be gas, water, electric, whatever it is. In concert with that, we're also facing, as a state, a severe fiscal crisis, and we are in deficit. And so before you automatically say we can't afford this, I want to tell you that this bill and its essence is a enabling bill that would allow any local government, any county, to enact a tax credit. I left it broad in scope that would allow for any local government to be able to determine exactly who should qualify, how broad they want to make the program, if they want to limit it to just seniors or to certain homeowners. That way, when local jurisdictions feel that they're in the position to carry this forth and to enact it, they can do so. This tax credit would allow for a property tax credit for anyone who is spending up to 25% of their net income on utilities. And that includes gas, electric, water, as well as broadband, because broadband is considered an essential service. And before I move on, I want to tell you that there are people that do spend that amount of money on utilities. According to NCLC, about 18 through 20% of Maryland households pay more than 6% of their income on energy bills. But many low-income households, majority low-income households, spend roughly 20 to 24% of their income on energy costs in average. And so this would be a much needed remedy that we can give to our local jurisdictions, and just a tool in the toolbox. Again, we as the state, we are the ones that are able to authorize local jurisdictions to carry it out. And I don't believe that local jurisdiction would carry this out if they cannot afford to do so. But why not have a tool in the toolbox just in case you need it? I don't often need a screwdriver, but in case I do need one, I have a toolbox and I have a screwdriver in there to use in the event that I will need it. And so I believe that this is just another tool that we can give to our local governments and to show our constituents that we're not here simply to raise their taxes, but to offer them real relief, especially because many individuals have received their most recent ESTAT assessment and tax bill and are disgruntled. So I believe that this is a great effort to show that we are working for Maryland families. And with that, I urge respectfully a favorable report, and thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is William Steinwiddle. I'm the Deputy Advocacy Director for Homeownership Preservation at the Maryland Legal Aid Bureau. I thank Delegate Long for the opportunity to testify in strong support of House Bill 556. The state currently has a homeowner's property tax credit, as probably a lot of the members of the committee are aware of. However, in most counties, that does not even cover the entire amount of the property taxes. In counties like Prince George's County, Baltimore County, Montgomery County, and Howard County, the credit leaves usually $1,000 to $1,200 in property taxes that still have to be paid. So we believe that this legislation helps in providing and enabling legislation to allow not only for property tax to be covered, but for utilities to be covered as well. In September 2025, the Maryland Office of the People's Counsel broadcasted higher electric bills due to an increase of 800% in the capacity market auction. Has caused a huge increase in utility bills. So this is now needed more than ever. In addition, we once represented a client who only lived on $900 a month. and she constantly paid just her property taxes so that she could stay in her house, a house that she had owned for over 30 years. However, they continued to shut off her utilities, and we assisted her in applying for utility assistance, but it still wasn't enough to cover all of the utility costs. So we believe that this client would be helped in the situation, would be helped if the county went forward with this assistance, and we hope that some counties do take advantage of that because it is definitely needed for our client base. So again, we testify in strong support of House Bill 556. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony, and thank you, Delegate, for bringing the bill. Are there any questions on this legislation? Okay, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing, and I believe that ends the bill hearings for the day. Thank you so much, colleagues. Subcommittee chairs, back room in 10 minutes. We'll give it 10 minutes and then back room. Thank you.